Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Dee Dee. We are the hilarious outcome of opposing brains sharing a mutual desire to share knowledge and positive thinking about hemp and cannabis.
We are here to tear down the walls built by big pharma and other big companies that seek to keep the human race in fear and divided.
We are here to shatter the myths about hemp and cannabis and change the stigma of this amazing plant. Welcome to Hemp and Happiness with the Hemp Queen
And Emperor
podcast. Join us as we venture into this misunderstood and the unknown.
Hey, happy hempsters. It's great to see you. We are in a new location. Thanks to Matt, because he pretty much got all this ready for us. Is a little bit of a downtime too due to this, but I think that we'll make this work. You might see some of his cute cats in the background, though. We've got Jinx and Dexter. They like to say hi to us, which is nice. I don't mind them at all. Thank God I'm only allergic to cats, you know. But I do have two of my own.
Just take some CBD, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that does not help with them, man. Unfortunately, if it did, I'd be okay.
Helps with everything.
Almost. So today, I'm kind of getting a little bit personal with you all. Most of you know why I truly got in this business, and it had to do with my husband and the fact that he has seizures. But most of you don't know that, you know, he still has them. Unfortunately, CBD is not a cure. And once you have seizures, you're always going to have them. They just may be a lot less frequent, which is good because he was having like 2 to 4 a month, and he has the grand mal seizures. So they are, sorry for that technical difficulty. Like I said, the cats like to play. But he would have the grand mal seizures, and I mean, his whole body just stiffens and the convulsions happen. And then usually those are about anywhere from, a minute up to 3. Luckily, I've not seen him have any that are worse than that. But they literally just kind of take over. And then as he's coming to, he has no clue who he is or what just happened, or he doesn't really know who I am. And sometimes those episodes can last like a good 5, 10, 20 minutes where he's just kind of out of it. He usually sweats profusely. He almost always bites his tongue. So then of course he has problems eating and drinking afterward, which is always pretty bad for him. And then he's always tired after. But I did a little bit of research. I mean, obviously I've researched this since, forever. But seizures are defined as a disorder in which cell activity in the brain is disturbed, causing seizures. I mean, it's not much to it. They've got there's 4 main types. They've got focal, generalized, combination focalized, and generalized and unknown. And technically John's, they're more, I don't really know how to describe his with the grand mal, but they're not the focal ones. I'm pretty sure the focal ones are where people are looking at you and they just kind of fade away. So they're a little different, his are. But, there's warning signs. Obviously, the staring happens, and then they kind of just go into jerking and the stiff bodies. They lose consciousness. Breathing sometimes can be hard because literally they're clenched so hard, and all the saliva just kind of gets back in their throat. So it's always good if you do see somebody having a seizure, do not put anything in their mouth, especially your hands, because you can lose fingers. But turn them on their sides if they're laying down. It's always best to have them on their sides so they can keep breathing. Sometimes they will lose their bowel and bladder control. And obviously sometimes they'll fall. I mean, that's kind of what's happened to John quite a few times. One time I wasn't there at the house, and he was in the bathroom, and he slit the back of his head open, I think on the little cabinet for the sink, and there was blood everywhere. I came home, and like even handprints from where he's trying to grab onto it's just horrific and tragic, and I hate it. And this was prior to the CBD regimen that we have him on. We have him on about 200 to 300 to 500 milligrams I tend to give him more when I feel like he's been stressing. I think stress and lack of sleep and too much caffeine and too much alcohol are all triggers for him. He will argue with me about the alcohol, but I see it. I know he doesn't see it, but I also know he likes to drink more when he's stressing. And I've put the 2 and 2 together where he hasn't. I can always tell when he's had a bad day at the shop. He comes home with his little 6-pack. Doesn't drink all of them, thank goodness, but still, that's a way to know.
There's no judgment here.
No judgment. I get on to him sometimes. Unfortunately with seizures, there is always the risk and the chance of SUDEP, and it's sudden, unexpected death of someone with epilepsy. And that is probably my biggest fear, obviously, is that will happen to John. And I pray it doesn't. But it's not super common, but it's not super rare either. It tends to happen in children that have the uncontrollable multiple seizures daily. Not necessarily for people like John who got them in their adult years for unknown reason. But they typically do happen in children, and it's sad. And it's sad that our state is fighting so hard to keep a lot of these products illegal, and they don't allow medical. I don't know if most of you know this, but the fact that our own government owns a patent, and it talks about how cannabis oil protects the neurotransmitters for seizures. And if you guys ever want to read that patent, it's US 6630507181. You can just Google it and it'll bring it up.
We'll include that in the job notes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the show notes as well.
Job notes.
Still a contractor.
Yeah, you are. But it's sad when people, especially, I mean, it's just sad for kids. It's sad for adults. I mean, they have a lot of psychological problems, lots of depression, lots of anxiety. I mean, some people even are suicidal because of just how they leave them feeling and the fact that they can't be controlled. And the one thing about John, I met him in 2009, and he, God love him, he didn't even want to tell me about the seizures. He was afraid that I wouldn't date him. And I was like, well, I don't know what kind of person I would be if I didn't. That's kind of crappy. So, I mean, it just was what it was. I think about a month or so into our relationship, I saw him have his first one. And, it was scary. It was definitely scary, especially the waking up and he didn't know who I was. And I wouldn't say he gets violent, but he's definitely not himself.
Well, I think it's a disorientation.
Yes.
And, not to disagree with you, but I understand John's apprehension because that's a lot to take on for you.
Yeah, it is.
Just dealing with the issues that I have, which do not include seizures.
Right.
It's like, whoa, disclosure here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little fucked up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I understand John on that one.
It never swayed me from not dating him ever. That really didn't. I was like,
and that's a good person.
Yeah. I mean,
there's a lot of people out there.
I know.
Like, I can't deal with this.
Someone he had dated before would not spend the night.
Yeah.
She absolutely refused to. And I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Usually his happen in the morning. He's usually, it happen like while he's still in bed. But they kind of called his a misfire of his brain. So it's like his brain's trying to wake up, but it's misfiring. And that's what causes his. And he's, knock on wood, he's never had any during the day. It's only been in the mornings, kind of before his regiment of his self-medication happens. Most people do not know this. I think I posted on Facebook, but obviously my personal page and not our business page. But we were down in Hopkinsville just in July, and we were there for the Medical Cannabis Advisory Committee having our final town hall meeting, and we spent the night there. And the next day we woke up, he seemed fine. He said he slept like the dead. And he got his shower. We packed up, put all our stuff in the car. And I'm like, well, let's go back in and get breakfast. I'm going to get some coffee. And we go back in, and he proceeds to eat half a muffin and drink half a thing of orange juice. And I was talking to one of the ladies there from the town hall, and I look back over at him, and he is staring off into space, and all of a sudden he just starts clutching, and next thing you know, his eyes are rolling and he's having a seizure. And of course, everybody's like wanting to call the ambulance. I'm like, no, not yet. I said, he's fine. It just takes time. You just have to work through it. Went out, once he came back somewhat, I went out and got more CBD products and got that in him, but it's kind of hard to do that. I got to be there with the husband, but luckily I was there, and he didn't hit his head or anything like that, and kind of just fell over in the booth and on his side. So, but man, they're scary. They're horrible. And then anytime I hear a loud noise in the morning, it's instant stress. I'm like, oh God, oh God. It's just instant stress. I wake up every morning, instant stress. And I know that I can't control it. And I know that that's no way for me to live either, but I always worry about him, especially when he's just had one. And the crazy part is back in 2010, when he had a really bad one, I wasn't there, but he ended up about 3 blocks away at the Speedway there. He came to in the beer cooler. And he's like, well, at least I still knew where the beer was. I'm like,
perfectly reasonable place to wait something out.
But God love him. He had broke 3
Was
ribs.
it summertime?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think.
there you go. Cooling off.
No, it was May.
Who
it was
hasn't
spring.
lingered in the beer cooler on a hot day? Just
At
a little.
7 a.m.
Especially in Kentucky, we have
7
beer
a.m.
caves,
Oh yeah, it was in the
and
cave.
it's just like,
Yeah.
you walk in there and it's like,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, and he loves being cold, so yeah, he's always hot. But it was kind of funny. I mean, we laugh now, obviously, but after that seizure with the 3 broken ribs and lacerations, and he had defecated all over himself. God love him. I know he loves me
But
talking about that.
Well, you know what though? That's what happens.
That is what happens. I mean, you kind of lose bodily function. You can't control that
When
shit.
you lose
Literally.
consciousness, autonomic functions will fail as well.
Oh yeah.
It's not unusual.
It's just, well, and with that one, I wasn't there. So when we went to his neurologist that he was seeing at the time, and this was before he got in with the VA. He is a veteran. I don't know that it's service related. He was also a big skateboarder, and he's a rotten ass kid who was always out. He was always into something. So he does remember having some concussions as a kid. So I have heard that a lot of new studies are coming out, like even with football players, NFL players having concussions and still playing or sleeping after, and then that leaves some gray matter in your brain. Now, whether they've seen it on MRIs, they haven't, but
we don't know. Is really
we
the
don't
answer.
know. There's many things that could happen, but we went to his neurologist, and all they wanted to do was up his pills. They had him up to 28 pills, cocktail of Lamictal, phenobarbital, and Dilantin, and he was still having seizures. They told him that he would need a new liver. They told him that his teeth would fall out. They told him that he would be sitting in a wheelchair with a drool rag, and that's when I was like, dude, that's no way to live, and I don't know that I want to be taking care of you that way. Not that I wouldn't. Of course I would. But
He'd be easier to manage that way.
it probably would be.
That's terrible to say.
That's horrible. Horrible.
That's just what popped in.
That's a
I'm
horrible
sick
thought,
individual.
Matt.
I'm
You
sorry.
are a sick individual. But we ended up, I was like, dude, I said, I think you need to just smoke some weed. And he's like, yeah. But of course, we live in Kentucky. Nothing's legal here. He went out west and learned about Rick Simpson oil, which is RSO. It's a 1-to-1 mix. And he started using that, and he went 5 years seizure free. Got off all his medications. They tried to do a seizure monitoring unit with him when he finally got in with the VA, and they couldn't induce one. And by then he'd already started using it and taking it. So they got him off all the meds, and he's not been back on the meds. And since then he's had 6 that I know of, but I believe it's 7. He had one, I think, while he was in California. So he's had 7. So really, since 2010, to only have 7 seizures instead of, 2 to 4 a month, it's not bad. I mean,
No.
and the one last year, and it was so weird because it happened almost exactly to the day as this past one in July, almost a year, almost to the day. It was so weird. he had stopped taking the CBD oil. So that I totally accounted for it. And then he had a damn Red Bull and a Starbucks the night before. So I was like, okay, and we're on vacation in a new place and you're not sleeping at a hotel. You know how those go. So I totally attributed that seizure to all of that, but he broke his back in that one.
I remember.
Yeah. So, I mean, he literally fell in the shower and then horror story of my life. My worst nightmare came true when he was coming to and did not know what the hell was going on. Here we are naked, getting ready for the day. And he literally picks me up and pulls me into the hallway of this beautiful Marriott up in Delaware. I'm glad we were in Delaware. So
That's
embarrassing.
Delaware, Ohio, by
no,
the way. Marriott on 23 if you
Ohio.
all want to visit.
It was not in Ohio. It was in Delaware. But oh my God, it was so embarrassing. I'm like trying to get in the ball so nobody sees me. And of course I'm yelling, no, John, no, John. And they think it's domestic violence. So of course, all these beautiful cops, my good gracious. I'm like, really? You got to send the cutest cops you have?
Did you just go limp like a babe in arms and say, hold me.
Didn't.
Just
No,
hold
I
me
went
for a
back in the room
moment.
and threw on some
Rock me
clothes.
back and
It was crazy because he had taken off by then, and
he took off running.
Not running. He just left me like there in the floor. He's like, I don't know why he won't get up, and I'm like, I'm not getting up. Like I don't know where you expect me to go. Just gallivant down the hallway.
You can log roll.
I'm like, dude, you're crazy.
on a public hotel floor.
Yeah, no, that was not going to happen. Luckily, one of the people gave me a towel to throw on me. Thank God. But I went back in, and then when I came out looking for him, that's where all the cops showed up. And of course, they pulled me aside and had to ask me all the questions if it was domestic violence. I'm like, honey, if it was, the man wouldn't be alive now. And I said, but I appreciate you asking. I mean, stuff like that just doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
Well, it's cool that they were.
Yeah.
One, they should ask those
Yes,
questions.
they should.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And two, it sounds like they dealt with it appropriately.
They did.
Like,
and
once they ticked the checklist off,
Yeah.
they moved on.
the ambulance people did come out and they ran his blood pressure and did a test for sugars, and everything was fine by then. Did you know we got a bill for that?
Oh, I'm sure you did.
They got
love
a
to bill you for
They
that
got a
shit.
freaking
They
bill for
love
that.
to
I'm like,
bill you for
wow, thanks all for the
Heck
emergency
yeah.
services.
Heck yeah. Once the what do they call them? The dispatcher picks that phone up, the billing begins.
Bullshit,
The
I tell
billing
you.
begins.
I'm like, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, we but then after that we got him back on the CBD oil, obviously. He makes the stuff, right? He absolutely hates the flavor of it. I'm like, so take a capsule.
But ours
eat a
tastes
gummy.
so good.
I know, and he still doesn't like it. It's so funny. He chases his with milk every night before bed.
So on that subject, I have a question for you. We're gonna kind of remove John a little bit from this discussion.
Yeah.
Something I've been curious about, and you may not have the answer, but it's intriguing to me, is the studies that I've read show that the anti-seizure portion of the cannabinoid profile is primarily based in CBD. That being said, THC is also an anticonvulsant.
Correct.
However, we know that the CB1 and CB2 receptors have a saturation point. And once they become super saturated, they no longer accept cannabinoids. So, and I don't even want to get into the lack of published studies. I'm not going to say that the studies haven't been conducted, because I strongly believe they have been conducted. They just haven't been published for economic reasons. Because
Oh, for sure.
why cure someone when you can treat them for the rest of your life, right?
Right.
Make money off. So I'm not even
Exactly.
going to get into that. I guess the question that I want to know is, if you were a marijuana user, THC user, you're getting some cannabinoids, but we all know that really marijuana is now designed to be as THC heavy as they can possibly make it,
Right.
which dilutes the rest of the cannabinoid profile, because it's that pie chart.
Correct.
Figure you make one slice of the pie, the smaller the other slices become.
Correct.
Do you think that because of that going on in the marijuana industry, people that would take marijuana for seizures are now not getting the same benefit because they're getting less CBD and more THC, and that THC is saturating. And while it's operating as an anticonvulsant, it's not doing that one thing that we're allowed to say CBD does, which is reduce seizures. A minimum of, I think that the last study published showed minimum of 30%. Was the decrease rate.
There's no question in my mind. Yeah. If John only did marijuana, and you never know what you're going to get because this is an illegal state, right? So you have no clue what the ratio is. You have no clue what the percentage is. But if he just does marijuana, I think he will definitely still have a seizure. Convulsions may not be as bad. Woo. You know what I mean? But I definitely think he would still have a seizure. I think that's why he had the one last year.
Yeah.
Now this year, no. I have no idea why this one happened. No clue. No clue.
I don't know that one, we don't know enough about the human brain to really sit there and
Especially
say,
his.
oh, well,
Especially his.
I'm not going to judge.
He's always going. His brain never shuts up. And his dreams are so vivid, he really thinks he's flying.
You know what? You know, that's interesting because there's a meditation that I've been following that is unwinding that. I'll have to.
That'll never happen.
Side note.
Yes.
Sidebar. So I guess that the moral of what I'm trying to say is one, by these studies not being published, people are suffering and dying.
For sure.
Simply because pharmaceutical companies don't want you to be cured.
No, they don't.
And they don't want you.
The crazy thing is that there is a drug on the market for Jarvitz, I believe, seizures for kids. It's called Epidiolex. Well, the thing with Epidiolex is that it only uses a CBD isolate.
Right.
And then, of course, it has to throw in a bunch of other junk in there to get it patented.
Right. And
it is not enough CBD. It actually needs all of them to work as effectively. Yeah. So, I've had friends, their kids have tried the Epidiolex, and while they got a little bit of relief in the beginning, it eventually wears off, and it didn't work for them any longer.
Well, and that's part of the problem too, is that there is no published evidence that says this cannabinoid does this and that cannabinoid does that. The best, the most accurate resources are, I don't know, but we think, based on anecdotal evidence.
Yep.
In fact, the only study that I'm aware of that was officially published and recognized from the FDA was the anti-seizure portion of it, and mysteriously, that's the only one that Big Pharma is capitalizing on.
Of course.
So not to be, like that, but it is frustrating. And for those of you out there who are suffering with seizures, don't think that marijuana is necessarily the solution, because you don't know. Even there is no patent on marijuana. Well, I take that back. I think there is one now on a specific strain. But for the most part, there really is no patent on marijuana. There's no consistency. There's no, this is going to be this percentage, that percent. And then even if it was, there's no published studies that show which cannabinoids do what.
Right.
So really your best bet at this point is to stick with a full spectrum CBD that encompasses the entire profile, including a microdose of THC. So we're getting it all.
Yep. And you need a high dose. I mean, granted, we're just trying to keep him from having them, so we have him on such a high dose. Now, we have other customers that are epileptic that come into our store, and they tend to stick to the 50 milligrams to 100 milligrams, and it seems to be helping them.
Yeah.
And I'm always available to talk to people, and I always work with them. We do this as just some being good people, but
because we're a wellness facility.
Exactly. But we're not a head shop, obviously not a vape store. We're there to actually help people and be on that side of the wellness. So for anyone that is suffering with seizures, by all means, come in, talk to us. Myself and Beth, we're pretty well knowledgeable when it comes to the seizures. Obviously I am more so, but even more than Matt, but we're here to help. So if you have questions, you have concerns, get with us. We always help people with that kind of stuff. So definitely stop in and see us. And yes, this is a plug for 502 Hemp because I'm going to do it. But I mean, for most people that didn't know, that is the whole reason we got in business, was because of my husband's seizures.
Yeah.
And where his regimen in the beginning was more of the 1-to-1 cannabinoid profile, THC and CBD, I think that's what made the most difference for him there in the beginning. And now with the different, like the last year when he was not doing the CBD oil, it was just, he was only getting the one cannabinoid.
And that was in 2014?
No, that was what? In 2020. Yeah.
2020 what?
Maybe it was 19. No, it was 21. In 21, he had the seizure, and he hadn't had one in like 5 years.
No, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was referring to when.
Oh, he started.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the original Farm Bill exemption was 2014.
Correct.
So,
and we were making it at home.
I know.
We were still in it. It
know.
was so fun. I mean, I was terrified we were going to have the DEA all up in our butts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those Kentucky Mafia bullshitters ain't got shit on you, Dee Dee.
Well, not me. My husband's a genius one, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, no,
Just
you're a
still in
genius in your own right.
That's true. I am.
I would never discredit that.
Mm-hmm.
So, all this talk about you being a genius, I completely forgot my point.
That's fine.
No, so a good full spectrum profile is the answer.
Yeah.
Since 2014 to now, we're in 2022. That's what 8 years.
Yeah,
it's 8 years now.
So 8.
And the studies. So essentially, these FDA labs have had 8 years.
Oh yeah.
To conduct these studies, and miraculously, none of them have been done.
Well, no, because they've got Keppra and they've got phenobarbital.
See, this is what's interesting, and I try not to be that D-bag that sits here and gives a cynical attitude towards things, because it's not. But this is just a message that it needs to change, because that's utterly ridiculous. The COVID vaccine was cooked up in 8 months, and miraculously, it's not a complete cure. You still need to come back and get regular boosters. Yep. We're still gonna make money on you. That's a nice little incentive. But anyway,
the
study,
especially for the kids out there. The kids need that they need the full spectrum, and there should be no reason that a parent gets in trouble for giving their child a full spectrum product that has that THC in it. And granted, most wouldn't, because they're taking a CBD product, but some of those kids, they need more of the THC.
Yeah.
They really do. The THC limits do need to be higher. It does need to be more of a 1-to-1 or even a 5-to-1 and you can get 5-to-1, but I think don't make me math. 5 CBD to 1 THC. Don't make me math. But anyway,
but that's the thing is we don't know.
No,
like there's no conclusive because there's no studies.
Isn't.
Because it's like this endless circle.
It is.
And here's the thing about that is we as a society need to reshape, our legal and moral specifications that we're putting on our society, because laws are made to protect people with capitalistic interest in mind, and we're capitalists. I mean, we're in it. We're not a nonprofit. We're in it to make money, but not at the sacrifice of someone's needs.
Gosh, no.
And that just makes it's hard for it to not make me sick. It's hard for it to not make me angry, because
it should make everybody angry.
People are suffering. People are dying. People are going to prison because our society wants to preserve economic values. Yep. Essentially. And we're following it like the sheeple that we are.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this podcast, you've made the right decision to step out of this sheeple narrative and start thinking for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is certainly what John did when he started cooking it up in his basement, meth lab style.
No, it wasn't.
No,
It was more like an alcohol still.
Okay, Bourbon County style.
Yeah.
So that's, I
We
think
had
that's
to.
the
We had
first
to do
step.
something.
And I mean, we get the coolest thing about the United States, in my opinion, and really ultimately all cultures is, as a culture, we get to decide. It just has to become a point where, those who want to hide what's best for the people can't hide it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing.
all
That's
coming
why
to
we're
an
having,
end.
yeah. And that's what, if nothing else happens in this podcast, if one person listens to this podcast and hears this and is like, man, I'm going to change my perspective, on rules and regulations.
Not everybody
on our
that
society,
uses cannabis is
a
a
win.
pothead. That's the one thing that gets me. Not everyone that uses cannabis is a pothead.
No, but the potheads make that difficult.
Yeah,
Because
the
they're
ones that
so
truly
fucking
are.
stupid.
Some are, yes.
And
I
I
agree.
just visited, I'm only saying this because I just visited a bunch of vape and quote unquote CBD stores. Disappointing, guys. We need to do better as a.
I don't care if they
as
do
a
better. It just
community.
keeps people coming to see us. So by all means, keep
they
doing your
go
thing.
into these places.
I
And there's no
know.
knowledge. There's no help.
I know.
The products are shit. And
Unfortunately.
that's hard to make me. Everything with this podcast is making me angry today. I swear. I hate it. Well, I don't hate it. I love it because I'm passionate about it. And there's no point in being angry, because being angry doesn't change anything. It just makes you.
But everybody runs their business the way they want to run it. And some people literally, Matt, just got in this business to make money. There's a lot of online people that are like that. They come up with a great story. Oh, yeah. But most of it's bullshit.
Yeah.
They've been told they have to have a good story in order to sell product. And they really don't have shit. And they really don't know shit. They don't care about shit or people. And they just want to make money.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And those are the people that really, really get on my nerves. They just jumped on the bandwagon back in 18 and decide, I'm going to make all kinds of money. And those people eventually they get weeded out.
Well, again, to the listeners out there, I think, that needs to be a serious part of your decision when you do decide to buy, any cannabinoid is, am I buying it from a reputable source? And I'm not talking legal or illegal. I'm talking, is this a trustworthy source?
I mean, if you go into a place and they cannot answer your questions and they cannot show you the Q&R code and how to find that certificate of analysis, you need to walk out. You really do. Price doesn't matter. Quality matters. Education matters.
Yes, and I 100% agree. But the average consumer should not even have to know about the certificate of analysis.
They shouldn't.
The person that you're working with for your cannabinoids should be able to tell you.
They should.
All the way up to making claims, which, newsflash, FDA makes that illegal because, God forbid, something healthy should be advocated over a pharmaceutical, because that would just be illegal.
Oh, right.
And breaking the law is bad.
Well, and just to recap, y'all, come see us. If you have questions, that's why we're here. That's why we're in this business, is to hopefully get you some educated relief. And we're always here and available.
Yeah.
Just reach out. And keep things in mind, keep things in perspective, know your source.
Yeah. And if you do suffer from seizures, absolutely consult a healthcare professional. I would recommend personally, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you work with a healthcare professional with a more holistic approach, who is up for at least pursuing natural alternatives to some medications out there.
Most neurologists are not. They have not jumped on board yet.
Well, you know what? But things are changing
slowly.
And, I have seen the tides turn just with the people that come into the store saying, you know what, my doctor told me to come here.
True.
Wouldn't say that it would help, but said it was worth a try.
Yep.
I'll take that.
I'll take that too.
Yeah.
That's
because if I was a doctor and there was no studies
right
for me to have access to, I'd be a little cautious too, especially since everybody loves to like sue the doctors now.
Right. Yep. That's true. That is true.
So yeah, but that I love that, and I love seeing that, and and things are changing. We're changing as a society. We're growing as a society. We're at a transition point.
Yeah, for sure.
And as people like you and John and myself, hopefully to help usher that in the best way possible.
Yep. Yep. Well, thanks for listening, Happy Hempsters. And make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all the other social medias. And if you ever have comments about our podcast, send us an email, info@502hemp.com, and we'll do our best to answer them when we're doing the podcast. You can even send us emails about something you want us to talk about. We'd be happy to do that. It's thank God he and I are, better, higher intelligence, and we can
speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself. And we think about podcasts to talk about, but sometimes we're like, what the hell are we talking about this week? I don't know.
We should do a listener question and comment.
We can totally do that. We might have to
fun.
that'd have to be live probably, but it might be doable. I don't know.
Anyway, where they ask questions right there.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. But anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We really appreciate you. And hey, don't forget to vote in the Leo for the best place to buy CBD products, the best CBD oil, and best edibles. And hey, you can always put in there best podcast too. That would be awesome. Awesome. So yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Hempin' Happiness with the Hemp Queen
And Emperor.
Keep your mind ever open and expanding. Like, subscribe, review, follow us, all the good stuff. And
Keep it hempy out there.